Welcome, I'm Bea. My channel is about mixed media, art, journaling and more. Hi all, today we're going to talk about stencils. Stencils and background go together very well. So I have a whole bunch of homemade stencils. I do have store-bought stencils too, but sometimes I like to have my own stencils. Just not to have what everybody has, and sometimes I can't find the patterns, especially in the area where I live. It's not always easy to find stencils which I like. So there are different types of stencils I make. This one is made from paper with one of those electronic cutters, like Brothers Canon cut or Silhouette or whatever you have. It is made from plain paper. You can kind of see here, that's all that's left from the paper. I have used it so many times with acrylic paint that it has become sort of plasticky. So using a paper stencil and put it aside to dry makes it even sturdier than just plain paper. So don't be afraid to use just paper, it works. You just can't clean them afterwards, obviously, because it is paper. But after a while it is so plasticky that it works like the other plastic stencils. So this one was done with the Brothers Canon cut. It is not one of the pre-selected patterns. I actually did make the pattern on a Illustrator, on a software with hand-drawn circles, so they are kind of wonky, and then I did scan it with the Brothers Canon cut and did cut it out. This one is a plastic mylar, and it's a totally hand cut stencil. You actually can see it. The edge are more raggedy than like this one, but I'm fine with that. One thing I have to say, you can see I did put duct tape around, because I did go, the sheet was 12 by 12, the mylar sheet, and I wanted to use up everyone, not thinking about that I need room to handle it. So I had to carefully add some duct tape around to be able to handle it properly. This is a stencil. I have to put it here so you can actually see it. A stencil, and the mask. I lost the arm. Anyway, I did use the stencil mostly, which I made from one of those overhead foils. It's the printable overhead foils. I simply did paint it with a Sharpie, and then you did use my knife to cut it out. That's another way how you can do stencils. Those two again are made with Brothers Canon cut or with any other electronic cutter. And I did use some specific mylar for stencil cutting. And because I did scan it first, and then again you can adjust the size and do it in different sizes. And you always have the mask also, which I think it's helpful. Then I have more here. This one is from some packaging material. Maybe I better see it here, this one, yeah. I did draw with the Sharpie and then just freehanded with the knife. Keep your packaging. I actually gonna use some packaging again for my next, which I'm gonna do here. There are different thicknesses, so this is a rather thick packaging material. So I figured out it's sometimes a little bit more difficult to get a clean print, while this one is a rather thin one compared to that. So that's probably going to be easier to have clean prints. So another thing people use, I haven't used it yet, is those file folders from plastic. There are a lot of materials out there which you can use So I actually prefer keeping my packaging material and use it up for stencils or other stuff. I do other stuff with that too. So I have a little sketch here, and the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make me a border so I can handle it somewhere. That's really something you have to be aware of. Make yourself enough border so you can grab your stencil and move it around. And that's actually the area where I can print, where I'm gonna do the stencil. So I want to switch between ovals and sort of circular, more circular. I want it looking very organic. So if I cut that like that, it's gonna fall out. So I have to connect it to the side and to each other. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm certainly gonna speed up some parts so that you don't get bored. It's really helpful to figure out what you're gonna cut out. So I know I'm gonna cut out that, and I'm gonna cut out that. And so on. Now, there are two ways now, and you could just go like this. But I actually prefer to paint it onto my plastic. But first of all, I'm gonna cut me a piece off so that I can move it around. I use a simple Sharpie. So I'm checking if I have everywhere 4 legs. If I don't have 4 legs, they are not connected. And obviously this has only 2 because it's at the... This one missing here too. Okay, I do have a blue one that's maybe better visible for you. Yep. A little bit lighter, and I know there is a glare. I'm gonna work over here where the glare isn't it? So, and now if you like, you can paint in where you want to cut off, but I'm gonna go for it. And I often turn. Don't try to turn the knife, that doesn't work. It works much easier if you turn the plastic. So there is a hole now here. Again, I'm gonna speed up and I'm probably gonna edit out parts of this cutting because, oh look, here I have missed one. It happens so quick. Good thing I did catch it. And even for me it's hard to see where I have already cut. Okay, here we go. So it is not difficult, but it is time consuming. But on the other hand, you have a very unique stencil and you can use it over and over again. And you didn't pay a dime. For a stencil. Make sure that you have no parts of your hand in the direction where you cut, so when I slip I don't hit myself. The other thing what I recommend, if you have one of those blades, use a fresh part. It works much better if the knife isn't dull. Now I have all the outer parts. Now for the circles, the inner circles, I usually make a cross with the knife and then use a really sharp scissor. It is easier with the small circles. Bigger circles are okay, but as soon as they get smaller, it's kind of hard to do it with the knife without getting too much of a raggedy edge. So I use instead the scissor, which is very pointy and very sharp, and cut it that way. So here we are. I'm gonna work on the inside and oops, yeah, that's way more than I wanted, but oh well. I'm just gonna start adding a base color here with the same. Actually, I'm gonna use it. Nope, I'm gonna use it like that. Make your mind up. Because I don't wanna. So I'm gonna add a base coat. First layer with some green. It is a non-stick surface here. So it is dry. Next I'm gonna use this one with still some green and make sure that it is overlapping so it gives a little bit of depth. If you overlap stencil patterns, just gives the layer more interest. So don't be afraid to overlap them. I'm gonna use the next stencil. Still gonna use the same sponge. Whoops, that's one of the liquidy paint. And again, that's a hand cut. That's why it's so wiggly. But I actually don't mind it. Now, next I'm gonna use red colors, and for that you can either go wash your sponge, but I just grab another one and wash everything at the end of the video. Okay, if it is too liquidy, see what happened here? It moves under the stencil. So now for this one, which has a very thin line, you really have to have heavy body. If you have too liquid of a paint, it's gonna mess up your pattern. So it's a really heavy, thick paint. And that is one of my own faces. I did made a sketch and then did clean it up in the software so that I got the really thin lines. And her lips I'm gonna do in red. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe and share on whatever social media you are on. Till soon!